No, but
No.
someone has,
Oh,
apart
man.
from you.
Telling you. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Unfucking real.
Guys, welcome to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome to another Premier Division review show. We only had the 3 games this week, but still a lot of incidents in these games, it has to be said. We'll start off at Finn Park, where Finn Harps are beaten 1-0 by Waterford FC. Absolutely huge 3 points for Waterford, lads, because that puts Waterford 4 points behind Finn Harps, who were just 2 wins in 16. You know, a few weeks ago, saying 2 in 13, 14, 15, now 16. It's getting higher. Is it 16 or 15? I actually can't remember at this stage, but it's one of them. I'm sure a Finn Harps fan will tell me for sure, but you know, they're in bad form, basically, and this was a bad defeat for them. But bit unlucky, though. Dave Webster got an injury, went off, the captain. They were missing Siddiqui. You had Jordan Mustoe making his debut. You had Boyle had to go to centre-back. So you had Ryan Rainey, who came on and played right-back, who isn't a right-back. So, look, they're after having a bit of bad luck, I'm after saying before we came on air the last few weeks with a few decisions. And I suppose the first thing to say is, from their perspective, is to talk about that penalty right in half-time, which had a huge bearing in the game, obviously. Was it a penalty, Philip, in your view? Obviously, Mustoe deemed to pull back, I think, the Finn Harps player.
We were just discussing it before we came on, Keith, and I said, like, you can see why it was given, but Daz made another good point off air before we came on. Like, some weeks it's given, some weeks it's not. Like,
that says it all,
since, yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, Keith, I kind of, like, I've looked back and I'm saying to myself, would you be disappointed if that was given against you? And I always, like, I'm still not able to answer it because it's like, it is soft, but at the same time, it is a foul, but it's not a foul. It's just, I'm completely pulled between saying definitely like it should have been given and no, it shouldn't have. So, like, I'm literally right down the middle on it. I personally, for a Finn Harps perspective, as you said, they've gone 15, 16 games without a win now. So, like, decisions like that will hurt
2
that
wins in 15,
much more
games, but
yeah. So, like, it just goes to show, like, that they've kind of had a bit of unfortunate decisions go against them, and I think you could put this one in that bracket, quite rightly so. But I can, from my perspective, I dig out referees every week on your channel, Keith. But this week, I think I'm kind of split on it. I'm not going to turn around and say, yeah, he's got it wrong, because it's both sides of the coin.
I think, in fairness, a few weeks ago, did a stonewall penalty against Pats not given, to be fair. There was another incident as well, another game. It's not just coming to me now. But Daz, how did you see the penalty incident?
Yeah, look, like, what Philip said there is absolutely spot on. Like, you know, I think if you're a Waterford player, it's a penalty. But if you're Finn Harps, when you're like, well, hold on now a sec, there's not enough contact there now to be given a penalty. Look, I think some referees will give it, some won't, and it depends. It's situational too, on the atmosphere of the game, how intensely it is, all in come into play as well. But look, it was soft enough, I think, as well. But look, they gave it a penalty, and you can only play with what you get, and he's put it away, scored, and gave Waterford the 3 points that was needed. Look, it was an incident, especially for Harps, because, you know, they could have been looking at that as in that might have been a draw for them, would have been another point on the board for them, another point closer to safety. That's what they would have been looking at there. But they can be, you know, they could feel hard done by it again. Like, it's unfortunate for them, from their perspective, that it was given, you know. But like Philip said, it's very hard to say, was it or was it not? Like, was it definitely a penalty? Could you be like, well, no, it's not? Like, it's very hard to actually, you're very kind of on the edge of that one then too. But yeah, look, full credit to Waterford. They saw out the win anyway, and they got a vital 3 points. And I watched the game back, and I thought Waterford did very well, and their signings are bedding in very well. Just looking at some of the players, Wordsworth is a very handy player. A few people might know him. He has over 200 appearances in the English leagues. He's vastly experienced. He's 32. If you look up a few videos of him, he can score a free kick. He can score a long-range goal. He can pick a pass. He's got a bit about everything about him. So I think he's going to be a very vital player for them. And then Hutchinson, someone who came in the previous week, I think he's going to be a good player for them too, I think. And then they got a few younger ones then into, like, Mamabo. I think that's how I say it, from Bradford. He played for Wolves as well underage. And I'm not even going to pronounce the other guy. He came in from Cheltenham, another good young player. So they have added to their team. and they're not, as in my opinion, as weak as they were. They've lost players, but I think they might have enough quality now, or if they stay in the promotions, the playoff spot, they might be able to see themselves out and stay up.
Yeah, I mean, Philip, before we talk about Waterford actually as well, I suppose from Finn Harps' point of view also, you make your own look, and they haven't helped themselves in the last few weeks in terms of the missed 2 penalties in home matches, which have obviously proved to be costly. Barry McNamee is a very good player in this league, but that penalty, he'd be disappointed enough with it, I thought. Matt Connor saved it. I think that was his first start for Waterford, by the way, in goal, but it wasn't the best of penalties from Barry, to be fair, was it?
It was shocking, to be honest, Keith. I remember I used to play for Pat Scully on my college football team, and I can remember a penalty shootout, and we actually won the penalty shootout, but at the end, one of the lads that did miss on our team done the exact same thing as he done, like it was just very poorly hit. And Scully said to me, he says, if you ever do that again, a penalty shootout, he says, I don't care if we're finished or not, I'll walk on and I'll thump you. And like, do you know what I mean? If Pat Scully's saying something like that, do you know what I mean? You know, it's a full penalty. And it was identical. Yeah, I remember he says, don't ever do that again or I'll thump you. It was just great grand. But that was me, obviously, to the lad that missed. So I suppose, like, you made the point on Harps having made their own look, but I look at it on the other side of the coin as well and say they have been a bit unfortunate. Injuries again, Webster going off, you know, they were only getting him back as well. He was playing through an injury. So like it's obviously disappointing from them that good start has completely vanished and they're not able to buy a win at the minute, as we said. So they'll obviously be disappointed with that. If, to be honest with you, Keith, if I'm looking at it now, I would much prefer to be in the Waterford camp with everything that's going on down there. I said it to you previously, I knew Bertram was going to have a good few signings coming in. A nice little tweety board gave me a little a note on that, so that's why I made sure I mentioned it previously on the show. So obviously they've done good business so far by the looks of that, and apparently there is 1 or 2 more that are going to come in, but that remains to be signed and sealed. So we'll see what happens over the coming weeks. But yeah, just everything about Waterford's camp, if you look at it, Finn Harps is just a complete opposite. They're getting bodies in, but the quality is not from the likes of the lower leagues in English football. It tends to be local, as it always is with Finn Harps. So, yeah, I just think everything about it now is looking at Waterford probably leapfrogging them in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, yeah, Daz spoke a bit about it there, but Eddie Nolan, 32-year-olds coming in as well. Wordsworth, as you said, 32. That's what they needed. They need a couple of experienced players to come in. Junior, I'll call him Junior because he has Quit Irna Junior Armando. I'll go for it. He's like 18, I believe, and he scored a penalty. He looks sharp, but they have added those experienced players. I think that's what they badly needed, as Philip says as well. Like, they're 4 points off Finn Harps now, but Finn Harps are in a rush, and it's difficult to see them getting out of a rush. Whereas you can see Waterford maybe picking up a couple of points in the next few weeks. We'll move on then to Richmond Park and the finish. St.Patricks Athletic 1, Derry City 0. Again, for a 1-0, this was action-packed, actually, in many ways. I thought Derry started the game off very well, but Pats took the lead through Chris Forrester on 25 minutes, which was a nice finish, actually, after good work from Rowan and Coughlin. I think a couple of things here. Obviously, Pats picking up a red card again, which is their 4th in 3 games, which isn't good. That said, they dug deep and did very well to get the 3 points out of the game. As I said, coming into it, they did injury and suspension. So they had Lennon himself personally played as a right back. He's not a right back. McClellan played left back. So when you're looking at that side, and Coughlin, who was rushed back from an injury, was actually had to go off with a knee injury on 26 minutes, actually, just after he scored the goal as well. So from that side, like, there's positives and negatives from Pats and that kind of way. Derry City, I think, will be disappointed because I think they did start well. I thought the first 20 minutes were decent, but when they went 1 down, they did have a chance, I think, right in half time where they probably should have equalised, in my view. But when Pats went down to the 10 men, now, don't get me wrong, Pats had to dig deep, but Derry, in my opinion, didn't do enough. There was a lot of passing from side to side. And I think Ger O'Brien or maybe Conan Byrne, can't remember which one of them mentioned it, but they said there wasn't enough crosses from Derry going into the box. And he was dead right because, you can't just go side to side because even with 10 men, you can just move across each time. From Pat's point of view, I thought Banquet, the youngster, did very well when he came on. I mean, he was thrown into the deep end. He was asked to go on and defend, and I thought he did very well. He only signed a pro contract this week. Ben McCormick and Burns actually signed extensions, which is great news for Pats as well. But I mean, from Derry's point of view, I think there's a long way to go in the season. They've done well, but I do think Daz, that maybe qualifying for Europe is beyond them now. Reality. How do you see the game overall? And how did you see the red card as well? Did you think it was fair, actually?
Yeah, I think it was the right call. It was a red. And like you said, Pat's discipline recently has been poor. They're picking up yellow cards, but not only that, when you keep picking up yellow cards too, once you reach a certain limit, that player is then suspended anyway. So they really need to start looking at this because this could really hurt them.
Mind the yellow cards. I'd mind the red cards.
but they're bad though. Like they have injuries as it is. The last thing they need now is to keep losing more players because they're getting hard enough to replace the players that are already out. So they're getting hard to replace them. I think your match analysis and that was absolutely spot on. Every single thing you said there is perfect. Like that's exactly how the game went. And I think with Derry, when Pats kind of went down, that was their chance to try and put them under more pressure because they had the extra man and they didn't have, Pats had players out of position. Derry didn't necessarily have that. So they could have tried maybe to attack their wings a bit more because their fullbacks they weren't fullbacks. So they might get caught out a bit more, be a bit more comfortable in their position, and they didn't do that. I think this was the only game that I think I called right this week. I said that Pats would have enough quality to get through. I said that we spoke about the players that might slot into the positions, which you called correctly last week. You said McAlynn, I think you said would play a left back, and we looked at a few other players. I think you mentioned Lennon as well, might go into right back, which he did. So they were kind of the obvious choices when you're out with players for positions, unless you bring up a 19s player. But yeah, look, Derry, I think Europe's out of the question for them this season. I think they need to try and capitalise on where they are and try and push up the table and make sure they don't fall into some kind of relegation scrap anyway. And the last thing they need now is to not win games anymore and go back into that bad spell again of not getting games and not winning games or seeing games out. But yeah, look, their passing was just, Pats were happy to let them do that. They were happy to let them have the ball and happy to let them, they're not going to go forward to them. And when they went forward, they lost it fairly quick, I thought, as well. They had no drive about them. They had no go-getter, that kind of attitude at them. Pats sought out the results with 10 men with players out of position all around. They did very well come away with the win, but I did think they'd come away with the win and I did think they'd see it out, and they did. But another red card, injury still there. Like you said, you just have Coughlin playing with injury. It's not good to see for a Pats perspective, but good off the field news and them signing new contracts and all that.
Yeah, absolutely, Philip. I mean, one of the things, Philip, I picked up in the game was the fact that we talked about how Pats didn't have natural fullbacks playing fullback in a back four. Derry were playing with wing backs. I just wonder maybe a side that played with genuine wingers, or maybe Derry could have changed up to play like that, get Junior properly on Lennon. I know he moves across there at times, and get someone on the right like Will Fitzgerald maybe starting could cause some more problems because wing backs, they don't really as a rule take on full backs, I think they miss it tactically there actually.
Yeah, 100%, Keith. Something I was about to say before Daz said it, I was thinking after seeing the game, fair play to him, because he did get it spot on in the review show. Everything he said was perfect. I was saying to myself, what was the point of watching that? Because he summed it up to a T. So credit to Daz there on that. But no, I agree with what both of you have said. Credit where credit's due. But to be honest with you, Keith, when I watched back the highlights, I looked, and when I seen the Derry chance go, they should have scored. It was a stone cold chance to score, and I kind of thought to myself after that, I thought that was going to be it. I didn't think they'd get back into the game, even with the red card. I thought Pats looked comfortable. They did right their look there. Don't get me wrong at times, but overall, I thought they were comfortable for the situation they were in. You wouldn't have thought that they were missing so many and had players suspended, etc., etc. So, I just thought Derry didn't deserve that out of the game for how they went with it. I think it's the first time we can look at Rory tactically and say he got it wrong. There's not many games that I could look back on Derry this season and say they were really, really poor tactically. I just thought if he had changed his approach and went with a different approach,
he would have known, Philip, as well, that Pats weren't going to have full backs. I mean, the dog in the street
everyone
knew that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was surprised with that key, especially when I was looking back on it. I kind of said to myself, "Geez, like, why has he gone?" I personally thought it was a defensive setup, to be honest with you. Now look, I think maybe he just gave Pats a bit too much respect in the instant of the game itself. So it kind of came back to bite them, but Pat's individual quality got them through the game, in my opinion. And I suppose the good thing from it, Keith, is that they're down players, they're down bodies, but they've got a result in a big game here. So they can only turn around now, hopefully start getting players back. And obviously, the only thing I question is what's the story with this discipline? Like, it's nothing you would associate with Stephen's sides, and it's something that you don't want to keep going in your side. I've seen Rovers sides for years prior to Bradley coming in with absolutely rotten disciplinary records and red cards week in, week out. And obviously Pats won't do that, I don't think, personally, but it's not Philip, nice.
That you're right, that red card could have been very costly. I mean, actually it happened at a point. Yeah. Pats were playing better at that point in the second half and were creating chances. So if anything, Pats looked like they were going to go on and get a second. But
and win the game comfortably.
Easily, Derry could have easily got an equaliser and Pats be sitting there with their tails between their legs again, saying, "Look, red cards after costing us again here. Like, what's this going on?" But also, Philip, when you're getting players sent off, like they have been the last few games, they have to work harder off the ball. Yeah. So, I mean, against Waterford, 18 minutes, red card. You have to work your socks off for the next, whatever it is, 70 minutes. Yeah. In this game as well, it was 62 minutes, I think. So you still had a good half an hour left in the match. And,
true.
You're asking a lot sore bodies, etc., etc. I think as well, Philip, I'll just mention before we move on as well, is that the Ronan Coughlin thing is a sickener for them, because by not having another striker available, someone that can lead the line, he was forced to play this match, and clearly the knee wasn't right because he went off again. That's probably him gone for the next few weeks. So, as you said, they've done brilliantly to grind it out. They're in a great position at the table, but they need to get bodies in certain positions, don't they? Otherwise, it's going to ruin what their good work is, what I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah, and obviously we've been discussing previously, not previously, between ourselves, Keith, about possible moves coming in, and I don't know what the story is, but it just doesn't look like they've got their house in order. Usually clubs have their cards kind of sorted before the window even opens, and they kind of have an idea who they're bringing in. Like, there's been speculation about a couple of players, but like, there's been no real concrete yet. Do you know what I mean? There's a couple obviously extending their contract, which is great to see again, and a couple of youth players coming up into the senior squad, which is obviously a good thing. But they don't really have too many. Like, there's not much speculation around them, bar one or two players, to be honest. And the players that they've been kind of linked with aren't really great, in my opinion, for what they need at the moment. They might add something, but I don't see them adding too much. Just one thing though, Keith, before we move on. I'm delighted about Pat's getting the result for Keno, and I hope he's watching this, and if he is, he's on the mend. That's great news as well. So, Keno, get yourself back to us soon. We love Daz on the show as well, but I suppose there's nothing better than two Pats men and a Rovers lad.
In fairness, someone was at the match on Friday as well, so he came out of it unscathed. So thank God Derry didn't score in the last minute for his sake.
Oh, Jesus. Well, yeah, good. It's good to see him on the mend, and I know everyone online gave him some great wishes, and obviously we're all delighted that he's on the mend. He's back at games, because that's what he lives and breathes. So, good man, Keno, and hopefully we'll be catching up with you soon.
Absolutely. Now, Longford Town, he mustn't be too bad. He was messaging me about this one. He was moaning about the stream. So it finished Longford 1-1 at the City College Stadium. Chris Lyons up and scoring after 13 minutes, and that man Grimes after 77. Nice little dink over Adamusu. We've been saying how Longford have been unlucky the last 2 weeks, to be fair, Daz, and they have been. But overall, I thought this match deserved their point as well. They got what they deserved as such in this game. Drogheda were better in the first half, but Longford were better in the second half, in my opinion. And as a result, look, it's great that they got something out of the game.
Yeah, look, I think last week too, we said that we think Longford could get something out of this game. And I was saying, they're kind of due a result soon, and it's not like they've been playing bad all season.
Yeah.
They just can't see a win now. They're kind of in a rut like Harps are at the minute, just can't get a win no matter what to do, no matter how hard to try, no matter how a game goes, a referee decision goes against them, a player gets injured, someone gets sent off. Things just weren't going their way, but they're by no means a pushover. They just can't get a result this season, and they've been very poor that way. But look, they got the result, and I'm delighted that they did. It was vitally needed. Now, they're really far down there. They're a long ways off. There's a good few games left to go this season, but it's not looking good for them in terms of staying up. Look, it was a good result all around. Like you said, Longford didn't give up. They really pressed hard, I thought, and worked very hard in the second half, and they had a very strong work rate. And like I said before, they're a real team. They all work for each other, and they all play. There's no real standout individuals like there is in some other teams. So that's as a positive that they have that not many teams do have. And the goal was very good over Musu. Gerard goal. He's a smashing young keeper. He's probably one of the best in the league. I think he's a really, really good keeper, and he won't be happy to be bet like that against Longford of all clubs too. No disrespect to them. Probably wouldn't be expecting to be a goal like that. But I think Drogheda would be looking at this thinking this is one that got away for them, because this could have been one where they could have got 3 points. Especially on paper, they'd be looking at this and thinking this should have been one that they probably should have won.
Yeah, I think so. 100%. Does fully agree with that. I mean, Philip. A. Dervin was missing for this one, who's a little tiger midfield for Longford. But interestingly, Dean Williams and Darren Nugent, as you know, from Shamrock Rovers, coming in on loan. I suppose they're good players for a start, so you'd like to think they can give them something. We have talked about how they've lacked that bit of trust and attack, and Dean Williams, he proved it at Bray and at loan in the first division. He could score goals, so that should give them added quality, I feel. And how do you feel about that generally, actually, even from a Shamrock Rovers perspective, those loan moves?
Yeah, I'd be honest with you, I was very surprised, actually, to be honest. I didn't see why we needed to let Williams go out. I just think that maybe there's someone coming in that we don't know about yet. That's the other side to it, which kind of excites me.
They're linked to a striker. They are.
Yeah,
allegedly, he's looking for. Yeah, Bradley's looking for a striker. Allegedly, there. Yeah.
Yeah,
he always has been.
Yeah, and look, we won a league without a proper centre forward last year, so we aren't doing too bad. Do you know what I mean? And
Bowls and Rovers aren't even playing this week. Anyway, go ahead.
There we go. Asher, look, you never know. We might swipe Georgie Kelly. That's the other side to it. You never know. Anyways, to be honest with you, Keith, it's good for Longford, but I just think, again, it's just not really too much experience. Although Williams, he's still very young now, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. It makes sense for Longford, but I just don't see it making sense for Rovers. So again, I'm not sure about it. But overall in the game, Keith, again, I've watched about 60 minutes of it. I haven't watched it all back. So, but it's pretty much, from what I've seen so far, it was back and forth. It was
a bit scrappy overall, I have to say.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best game, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think, as Daz has said, though, Drogheda kind of looking at this and saying it's 2 points dropped rather than a point gained. I think Longford looked at it, though, as a point gained, to be honest, because Drogheda have been really, really good this season, to be honest with you. And I'm saying it now, I think Chris Lyons is player of the year so far, the way he's been going. He's definitely in the category for it. That's 100%, no question about it. He just seems to score week in, week out. Obviously, there's a couple of games where he didn't, but he's been brilliant when he has been playing. So I just think overall now, Drogheda, they've kind of hit a spell where it's kind of been difficult for them to get points on the board. Now, look, I'm not saying they've been poor. They haven't been poor, bar probably 1 or 2 games, the Bows one, which comes to mind straight away. But as I said, a game like this, they probably look back on it and say they should have got the 3 points. So they can only turn around now, take the next game as the same for Longford, and just try and get 3 points on the board. I personally think it's done now for Longford, even though they've got a point out of this game. I'm just looking again, talking about Waterford and Harps. I can't see Harps having that much of a calamity that they'll finish bottom.
And Waterford do look like they're getting better, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I personally think it'll be Longford, Finn Harps in the playoffs, and that's probably it for them. But anyways, Longford can only take week by week, as we've said so many times before, and hopefully the players that they've got in on loan to the end of the season might be able to do them a job, pick them up a couple of points, and they'll see where they can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Lyons the second highest scorer in the league with 9 goals, to be fair. Killian Phillips, actually good young midfielder, dash defender, signed a new contract this week. But apparently as well, Gary Deegan has actually made more interceptions this season than any other player in the league. He's been good, hasn't he, for Drogheda?
Yeah, look, he's been very good. I think he's, with how he was at Shelbourne, I don't really think we thought he'd be this good this season, especially with that stat there, the most interceptions. I didn't actually know that. That's very impressive, and it shows the ground that he covers and his defensive awareness capabilities to be able to intercept passes and to see danger. That's a really help for your back four, that you're not going to put them in a dangerous position in the match, that someone can be in front of that and actually organise all that. It's really good to have, and it's very rare, I think, in the game to have a player. I can't take like players shiny with defensive awareness that can spot out danger and stop it before it happens, because interception is the best way of defending, in my opinion, but you're stopping it happening. And that's a very interesting stat. And yeah, he's been brilliant for them this season, and hopefully he stays with them. But a few clubs could come knocking for him. The likes of Pats could come looking for him. He wouldn't be bad in Rovers either. That kind of a stat. Mightn't get in on the team, but he'd be good as a squad member. But he's a smashing player for them. He's doing very well, and he's going to play every game with them. He's going to be one of their best players, so he probably will stay there. But he's a great player.
Absolutely, lads. Brilliant stuff. Only 3 games this week, but to be fair, they were fairly action-packed, so there was a lot in that. Thanks again. Guys, subscribe if you're new. Hit your bell notification button so you don't miss a video. Like the video and comment below. Cheers, boys.